Hi, it's Ross from Moshville Times here, and I'm with Jaret Reddick from Bowling for Soup. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. What time is it over there? Because it's like 8:30 here.
It's 2:34 in the afternoon right now.
Oh, you've got all day ahead of you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's when I'm home, the boy will be home. My youngest will get home in an hour and a half or so. And then it's like homework and dinner, and then the rest of this day after in about an hour kind of goes by really fast.
Yeah, I can imagine. So anyway, whilst I've got it here, we're headlining some venue called Wembley Arena next
Yeah,
week.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's
Hmm.
one of those things. It's like when you're a kid, you dream of certain things, and I remember being a kid that I played metal when I was a kid, and you wanted to tour Japan, you wanted to go play Wembley in the UK, and so
Hmm.
we played there a few years ago with Steel Panther, and
Hmm.
honestly, kind of thought, okay, well, this will be our time to play Wembley. So, but here we are, 31 years into our band, and headlining Wembley Arena.
So 32 years it'll be Wembley Stadium.
Let's hope so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so headlining Wembley Arena, how does that come about? Do you approach agents and promoters, or do they pitch it to you? How does that work for like a one-off show like this?
Yeah, it was it kind of the conversation started a couple of years ago, as we were starting to our as our audiences have been building and building, not just in the UK but across the world really. And it's been amazing to just see our audiences getting bigger this far into the band. And after we had booked this last tour that we did with Wheatus and Magnolia Park and John Mahan, that was our biggest tour to date. And so, as we booked that one, our agent was like, what's next, right? And I was like, no, well, probably Wembley. And so, I'd say it like this, I guess a lot of things like those conversations happen a lot. Hey, you should tour with this band, or what about this? And so you sort of just take it with a grain of salt. And so, I thought to myself, well, that would be really cool, but I'm not going to hold my breath. There's a lot of other
Hmm.
places that we can play, but the last tour was super super successful, and again the audiences are growing, and so it worked out, and so it got booked, and I'll tell you, it's a literal dream come true.
Yeah, because I think I was at that tour earlier this year, and I think it was the first time I'd seen you guys since like 2018 or something like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, it was great. Like, obviously, so much changed, and like, it it was weird to think that like you guys were always this band that like I'd go see every time you played, and then somehow I just stopped at some point. I don't know how it happened. I think like there'd just been like diary clashes and stuff, and then like when this one came out, it was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm going. Like, there's not a
Yeah.
chance of missing it.
Well,
And
and
then,
I feel like that's sort of happening now. I feel like that
mm,
there's a lot of people that either they stopped going to gigs or they started going to see different bands or whatever, and now there's sort of like you get to this point of nostalgia, but you also get to there's a comfort, I think, in Bowling for Soup. You know what you're gonna
mm,
get, and so I really, and we welcome everyone. It's and so
mm,
I think there's as many people coming back to come see us as there are new people coming in, and it's just
mm.
it's going to be an awesome night.
So next Saturday, what can we expect like from the show? Like, is it basically going to be like the ultimate Bowling for Soup set list?
That is the point. Yeah, that is our absolute goal. We talked about several different approaches. We talked about, some crazy production and me popping out in the middle of the crowd, and we talked about guest stars, and we all of this stuff, and I sort of reeled it back in, and the guys and I just talking, and we just decided, what got us here was Bowling for Soup shows. Let's go in there and play a Bowling for Soup show. Yeah, of course it'll be big production and things like that, but not
Mm.
nothing so crazy to where you're just like, what's happening? It really it's gonna make sense.
Mm. Obviously as well, some last minute tickets have been released. For anyone that's on the fence, how would you convince them to come?
Well, I think anybody would tell you that has seen our band before that you will leave with a smile on your face, and your face will probably hurt from smiling.
Mm.
We're gonna play a lot of songs that whether you're into our band or not, and it is just it's a really really good vibe. So I think I know a lot Moshville Times readers and watchers are you guys are you're music fans.
Mm.
And Bowling for Soup, I think, is the we're the house band of the UK. I mean,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you want to come see us?
yeah. And Brendan from Wheatus is having his head shaved live on stage. What's that actually all about for anyone that doesn't know?
Yeah, so I got approached by Ben from As It Is. He works with a mental health charity called Uproar, and we did a collab shirt, and then we were just talking about some things that we could do, me and Brendan, and he was like, "Man, my hair has gotten really long, and I'm going to cut it off anyway. You want to try to raise some money for charity?" I said, "Man, I got the perfect charity. Here's what we're going to do." And so, yeah, we're doing a raffle, and the winner will get 2 tickets to the show, get to come up on stage during Bowling for Soup show and shave Brendan's head. And we will also have the heavy metal hairdresser, Simon, will be there to assist you with his clippers. And so we'll give Brendan a really, really good look, and it's going to be great. And and as I said, we'll raise some money, so you can still go and get a raffle ticket for that. And as I said, whether you win or not, whether you've already got tickets or not, it's going to a great cause. And mental health is something that means a lot to me, so I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. What's it like playing shows without Chris and how the fans take into it?
First of all, it was a little bit weird. We were pretty much thrown to the dogs, so to speak. I mean, it happened last June. He went home from Italy, and our next show was Download. So 2 days in, we're playing as a three piece in front of 100,000 people. So, and then our biggest shows ever in Ireland followed that up. So that was very hard, and not only just because he wasn't on stage, but also we were worried about him. Since then, it's I think the show has really taken on a new life. We obviously miss him. We miss his banter. I miss him being over to my right, somebody I can count on to say something funny at
Mm.
any time. But the three of us have really kind of fine tuned the show so that it makes sense as a three piece. And we're having the time of our lives. And honestly, the fans have been amazingly supportive of the whole thing. I think the thing is that traveling just isn't in the cards for Chris right now, and just something that he it just isn't able to do. And so him taking making the decision to step back, and allow us to carry on with his blessing has been awesome.
Mm.
And so again, it's been really wonderful. There's very few negative things as far as the fans is concerned have come across, and I think that's good. I mean, I think something negative towards the band would just would really be sort of not supporting anybody.
Mm.
So I'm very thankful of that.
Mm. So did you ever think when you came back to the UK in like 2016, because obviously you spent a couple of years away, that the band would be bigger than it's arguably ever been?
Yeah. I would have never guessed that. Honestly, 2013, as you said, we took a few years off, and uh, and there was a lot of things going on in our personal lives. There was divorces, and there was new children, and live shows were suffering really badly, and it was just a really hard time. And so I honestly just felt blessed to come back over every single time we were coming and doing a show, and the same is true every time we got to tour here or Australia or Japan or whatever. And so, especially coming back out of the pandemic, firing on all cylinders and really, really ready to go. And the fact that the audiences have been growing all around the world. I mean, it is definitely not something that I ever anticipated or expected. I'm certainly feeling very lucky, and we're really, really enjoying it, and putting everything we've got into it. And so, it's happening for us worldwide. It's happening for a lot of the bands in our genre, and
Mm.
I'm just glad that people are coming out and seeing shows again.
Yeah.
I think live music is so therapeutic, and
Mm.
it's something that I just feel like helps to make the world go round. And so, the fact that we get to do it for a living and people actually show up, I'm for it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, as you said earlier, you're the UK's house band. You're here that often. Is there any like British words or phrases that you've picked up and you use on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, I say taking the piss on a regular basis for sure. That's that one absolutely. And I say I'll say the bog. I don't say like bloody or anything like that, but
Mm,
I do say mate.
mm,
And so yeah, there several of like the really common ones are just in my everyday lingo now, and so yeah, I do call Americans mate, and I very often take the piss, and so yeah, it's that's so funny to me because I had no idea what that meant the first time that we had come over. I had no clue what taking the piss meant,
yeah.
and just the fact that it's just an everyday conversation for me now. But yeah, I'm sure there's more, but those ones for sure.
Mm. Yeah, I also remember like I can't remember what year at Download it was you guys played and it Rick Mail had just passed away, like it was that weekend, and you guys
Ah,
were like the only
2014.
was it? And you guys were like never mind like the British bands, you were the only band at all that even mentioned them whatsoever. Like are you just like a proper
Yeah.
Anglophile now, or has that always been the case?
No, no. So I grew up a Young Ones fan. When I was a kid, MTV started playing Young Ones episodes, and I launched right into that, and then
Mm,
figured out the comic strip, and so the band Bad News. I have that CD completely memorized, and so I was, and then Drop Dead Fred is my niece's favorite movie, and so just I loved Rick Mayall, and Adrian Edmondson, Niles Planner.
mm,
um, all of those guys, but Rick, obviously is just such a special person, special
mm,
actor and a comedian. And so yeah, I 2014 download. I wore a Bad News shirt, and I had the audience. I said, hey, Bad News, and I had them go, fuck off, Bad News. And yeah, that was 100% a tribute to that man who brought me a lot of joy, a lot of
yeah.
smiles.
Yeah, for sure. You've also done quite a bit of work with Thomas Ian Nicholas. How did that relationship come about?
It's funny when Thomas and I started had a rocky start. That this doesn't happen to me very often, but we had tried to get him on our podcast several times, and we were doing the movie. I think we were doing American Pie, and he didn't want to come on our show. I'm sorry, I had a podcast called Jaret Goes to the Movies for about eight
Mm,
years, and we had asked Thomas to come on as a guest, but he said he would come on, but he wanted to do one of his new movies, and I'm like, well, we don't really do that. We do movies from everybody's past, and anyway, so I got on the show and just talked to and I gave him a little shit about it, and so you fast forward a little while, and he meets up with a promoter that was putting people on our live podcast, and we ended up booking him for Rookie of the Year, and so when he got there, I started giving him shit for that, for turning me down and for wanting to do his new movies and stuff. And what was really funny is I was just like, F that guy, whatever. And I was being silly, but in the way that I am. And we became instant friends, and we have been inseparably close since then. And and we both laugh about it now. So, and ironically, I was the first guest on his new podcast. So, it's that's just one of those things where it's just life is really funny sometimes.
mm. Also, you've got your solo material that's like more country based, but you've put it on hiatus for the time being. Is there any reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just balance of life and family and Bowling for Soup. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities right now that Bowling for Soup is getting touring wise. Going back to Australia with Frank Turner, a summer tour with Frank Turner in the UK, and then some more things in the fall. So it's keeping me gone enough to where if I were home and wanting to play country on the weekends, it would really take me away from my family a little bit more than what I really need to be doing. And so it's just really just making sure that I'm I'm creating a healthy balance of work and
Hmm.
family, and just trying to keep smart about that, and making sure that I'm here for my wife and kids and my dogs and stuff. So it's really just all about that. Again, I plan to keep the country thing going.
Hmm.
When I started it, to be honest, as you were saying, like, it sort of seemed like we were winding down at one point, and not just us. I think a lot of people in music at one point, and especially in the genre of pop punk, it kind of felt like we were calling it sort of the dark times, and it sort of felt like it might wind down. So, during the pandemic, when I started the country thing, it was almost like, okay, well, this is what I'll do. This will be, what I do to keep, being able to make music and stuff. And but and so that'll be there for me. I've got it, and I've got that music there, and I've got more done, and so I definitely plan to go back. But it's really just the touring. It's the fact that Bowling for Soup going back in the studio is, that's 3 weeks, and then by the time we get done with that, it's back on the road, and so it's just trying to keep a healthy balance.
Yeah, of course. Lastly, you've obviously just hinted at a few things there. What is next for Bowling for Soup after you headline Wembley?
Yeah, well, we came out with a new song called "Holding On to That Hate" that we did just sort of on this whim to go into a studio and try out a new piece of gear. We basically got a couple of free days in the studio, like why not? So we wrote a song, and it gave us the itch. And as I said earlier, Gary, me, and Rob are really enjoying this era of Bowling for Soup. Again, really missing Chris, as a person and as a musician, but hey, this is what we're doing now, and it's going really well, and everybody's really happy. And so, you know what? Let's get in there and make a new record. And so that's in February, and then we get right back on the road in April. And Australia, UK summer tour is on sale now with Frank Turner, going to some places that we've never been, some really really cool venues. And then it's US touring for the rest of the year, a new album release, and that brings us to about this time next year. And I don't know, maybe we're talking Christmas tour. Who knows?
Yeah, nice one. Well, with that, all that's left to say is I'm looking forward to next Saturday. Can't wait to see you guys.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it too, man. Thank you for having me, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
This episode is copyright The Moshville Times, introductory music by Elliot Alderman Broom, and any music used throughout the episode is copyright to the original performers and creators.